Hey guys, I'm pretty excited. We're back to work on Scratch, and that's good news. Last time we got our basic sprite movement with the arrow key. So you've got something where you push buttons on the computer, and that makes something happen in the computer. That's pretty impressive if you really stop to think about it. What we're going to do today is we're going to add more to the game so that we have some interaction with the game. So it's not just you pushing buttons, but you pushing buttons in pursuit of a goal or to escape something. Those kinds of things. That's where we're moving today. So I'm in Scratch right now. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you're in Classroom, navigate to Scratch. There's that link in that in Classroom that takes you to Scratch, so it shouldn't be difficult to do. But once here, the first thing you need to look for is whether or not you're signed in. And I intentionally signed out because some of you are going to be like, oh, Mr. Emerson, Mr. Kizuka, I'm not signed in. So right here, I'm showing you what to do. So if you're not signed in, we're going to go over to the sign in button. We're going to click that, right? And you do need to remember your username and password, right? So for me, I use section 3, and then the first 3 letters of my last name, which is EME, and then the first letter of my first name, which is H, and then SVMS. So that's my username. And then my password is secret. I can't tell you, but it is the same password that I've used to log on to my computer. So that's a big deal. We talked about that before. If you're having trouble with any of this logging on stuff, see this link right here that says need help? Click it. Put your email address in it, and that'll get you your username. It'll get you a password reset link. It'll do all those kinds of things that you need in order to get yourself logged in. But I'm good, so I'm going to click sign in, and that will take me to the screen where I am signed in. If you were already here, what you should notice is your username in the upper right-hand side right here, where you can see you are logged in. Once you're there, that's a good sign that you're ready to move. So what is it we're going to do? Well, we're going to go back to the game we started working on the last time. That's going to be important. So in this folder, which says My Stuff on it, we're going to click on that folder so that we can see what My Stuff is and hopefully go back into the game that we started working on last time, which is right here. Keep in mind, we asked you to name your game, your username followed by tag game. If you did that, this is your game, and we want to click on See Inside to get into the game and be able to dig down and get back to work on what we're doing here. So this project takes a little time to load, and then bam, here we are. My window is in a bad spot right now, so I'm going to move that over here just for now. And now we can see a little bit better the things that I'm going to need to see. So right now you can see we've got Sprite 1 selected, and this is the code for Sprite 1, which is great. That's that basic arrow key movement code that we wrote last time. We're going to need to add a sprite, and we're going to do that in a few seconds. But before we do that, what I want to do is add another backdrop, another stage. Mr. Kizuka likes the X and Y coordinate plane so you can see and understand a little bit better how your screen works, and that's a good move. So I'm going to click on stages right here. Again, stages in the bottom right corner of your screen. Just click on stage, you can see what happens. What we get first is code, and we're going to do a little code for our stages, but first we're going to go to backdrops. So here in backdrops, you can see we've got one backdrop, which is just that plain white backdrop. And here we have the ability to change that backdrop using some art tools, which we might do, but we're not going to do right now. What we're going to do right now is we're going to add another backdrop. We can do that down here with this button. We can also do that down here with this button. I'm going to do a choose backdrop, which is right there. And once I've done that, you can see I've got loads of different backdrops I can choose from. I'm going to scroll down because near the bottom is the one I want. I want the one that's called XY Grid. So I'm going to click on XY Grid, and you can see that pops into my screen. You can see right now it's showing up. And that tells me that the top Y position is 180, the bottom Y position is negative 180, and the top X, the furthest to the right X position is 240, furthest to the left X position is negative 240. So that gives me information about the locations of my character on this screen that could be pretty important and pretty useful. All right, so once I've done that, I'm going to click back on code, that code tab up in the upper right, left corner. And I do want to do one little piece of code. What I want to do is make sure that my screen works the way I want it to when I'm playing the game. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to click that, drag out that win flag clicked button, right? That that event, excuse me. And then I'm going to go to the looks menu, which is the purple one second from the top. And I'm going to switch backdrop 2. I'm going to bring that in. Now I want to switch the backdrop to backdrop 1 when I start my game. So this backdrop, this XY coordinate plane backdrop is great for me to use as I move my cat around, as I set things up, all that kind of stuff. But when I'm playing the game, I want that plain backdrop to be what I see. All right. So once I've done that, I wrote that little bit of code for my backdrops. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another sprite. So I need another sprite to interact with the sprite that I've got already. And there's a few different ways we can look at that interaction. And what I'm going to do is give you some options, and then you're going to need to choose how you want your sprite to act. So that's really what it's going to be. So I'm going to go here to choose a sprite. And I can choose a sprite, I can paint a sprite, I can get surprised by just them randomly picking a sprite, or I can upload some kind of file or image that I want to use as a sprite. I'm going to choose one from the menu. Now, there's all these topics, categories at the top you can choose from if you wish. Animals, people, fantasy, all kinds of good stuff. But I know what I'm looking for because I used it the other day and I liked it. I'm going to put that crab in. Okay, so I'm going to click on the crab, and you can see the crab comes into my game, and he's here in my my sprite menu, and he's right there on my screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move him to right here just for now, just so I can kind of enjoy him being in the bottom left corner. We may end up moving him at some point or another, but what I'm going to start doing is adding the code for him. So once I've got my sprite, my second sprite chosen, I'm going to add some code. I'm going to start with an event, and we need to start with event. And this time I'm not going to use the when flag click event. What I'm going to use is the when backdrop switches to event, because keep in mind the code that we wrote for the other backdrop was for all the backdrops, was when flag is clicked, we're going to switch to backdrop 1. So by saying when backdrop switches to backdrop 1, I'm effectively saying just after you click that flag, you should do this, right? When you're writing bigger programs that involve numbers of backdrops, you only really want to have one event set up on the flag, and everything else should be dependent upon other events happening in your game. So using this setup is a good one to use as we work forward to bigger and bigger programs that we'll write. All right, so when the backdrop switches to backdrop 1, what do I want to happen? Well, the first thing I want to happen is in motion. The first thing I want to happen is I want my character to go to the position he's in right now. So you can see right down here in this bottom right corner, he's at X negative 173 and Y negative 164. So that block automatically navigates to whatever that current position is for that character. So I want him to go to that spot every time that the game starts. The next thing I want to do is in control, and I want him to wait, not for one whole second, but let's make it wait for half a second before he starts chasing, right? That gives the user of the game a chance to start moving before he has to or she has to worry about running away from something that's already attacking. Now, there's a lot of different things I can do to make this motion happen, right? A lot. What I'm going to do is one basic thing, and then I'm going to change it, and then I'm going to change it again and change it again. We'll do some about 3 or 4 different choices here. I'm going to start with a forever loop, right? So whatever I'm going to do, I want my character to do over and over again. We'll talk about maybe when you wouldn't want a forever loop later, but let's start with a forever loop. Then I'm going to go to motion, because obviously I want my character to move, right? So maybe the easiest motion that I can do is I can point my character towards the other character. So you can see I can change point towards mouse pointer to point towards sprite 1. And that's going to make this character point at the sprite 1, which is my cat. And once I'm pointing at that, what do I want to do? I'm just going to move. And I'm going to make 10 less than 10, so he's not moving quite as fast as my cat is. I'm going to make it 5 steps, okay? Now, if I click the flag, you can see that he waits, and I can move my sprite away from him, and he's pointing at my cat and then chasing after my cat. Now, a couple things I want you to notice. Once he gets to the cat, oh my goodness, that's awful, right? So let's click the stop button, because we don't want that to happen. So how could we change it so that he doesn't spaz out when he gets to the cat? Well, An easy change is to change the control, from a forever loop. So I'm going to drag that off to a repeat until loop, right? So if I put that same code in a repeat until loop, and then I go, well, what is it that I want to repeat until I'm touching sprite one. Now he's going to chase sprite one until he's touching sprite one, which maybe is the characteristic that I want to have happen in the game. So again, different options, different things we can do. Okay, let's start over. I'm going to click the flag just to get him back to where I want him. And already I'm seeing something I don't like. See how he's tilted a little bit? I'm going to go back to motion and make another change to my code that's just going to make it so that it looks more like I want it to look. But how you want it to look is another question worth asking, right? So I'm going to make him point in direction 90. And when I click the flag, you can see he squares up. So he's going to keep squared up now because I've got that point in direction 90 block in there. Now, a different way I can do this code, right? Again, there's lots of different ways. So if I go back and I do that forever loop again, right? And let's say instead of chasing the cat, I want to make him run away from the cat. Well, how would I do that? I could do the exact same thing. I'm going to do point towards, and again, point towards the sprite one, right? But this time, instead of moving 10 steps, I'm going to move away. So away in this game is going to be the opposite of 10, which would be negative 10. But again, I want to make him move a little bit more slowly than a cat. So I'm going to say -7. All right. So he's going to point towards the sprite, but then he's going to move in the opposite direction. So what happens when I click the flag? You're going to see he goes all the way into the corner and he hides. So that's not good. So I need to add something to my code. What is it that I need to add? If on edge bounce. So when I add that if on edge bounce, he's not going to run out of the window. So let's click that flag and try this again. Now you can see he's kind of oscillating in the corner there, running away from me. What happens when I go, oh, look at that. He runs away, he runs away, he runs away. So again, a different batch of code to do a different thing, and that makes some sense. All right, so let's stop. And let's look at changing this again. What if we don't want to run away from the cat? I want to go just in random directions all over the place. All right. So again, I'm going to control, and again, I'm going to bring that forever loop, right? If I don't have a forever loop, my character isn't going to do it over and over again. It's only going to go through that code once. You think about this like a step-by-step set of directions. It's going to do this, then this, then this, then this, and then this. If that forever loop's not in there, it's not going to keep going through those steps again and again. So let's look at motion. In motion, we have a lot of different things. One of the simplest things to do would be glide 1 second to random position. That's pretty easy, right? And again, if we know things that we didn't like or did like before, we know that one of those things was if on edge bounce, right? So he doesn't just go off into space somewhere. That's going to be something worthwhile. And one of the things that I liked was making sure that he always looks the same, right? So this glide in random places could make him turn slightly. I don't want to see him turn. Oopsies. I want to see him appearing the way I want him to, which is in that just regular crab moving around kind of situation. So let's go ahead and flag this and see what it looks like. And you can see, look at that guy. He's just kind of wandering around randomly around my screen, bouncing off the edges when he gets there. And he gets tilted a little bit every now and then when he bounces off the edge, but you can see he fixes himself. Now he's upside down, and he's fixing himself. Whenever he gets to the position, he's going to fix himself and come right back to that orientation, that 90-degree orientation. So can I run away from this crab like this? Sure I can. Could I chase the crab like this? Yeah, right? So we've got a different set of motion here. But again, ooh, look, he caught me on accident. He's not chasing me, but he is moving around randomly, and I could try and avoid him. So different kind of setup. So let's stop this, and I'm going to drag that forever loop out. And we're going to try one more setup here if we can. So here's the last setup I'm going to look at. Again, we're going to go to control and bring in a forever loop. And this time we're going to do the same kind of stuff, but we're going to do some things a little bit differently. Instead of moving specifically in the direction or gliding into a random place, we're going to change our X and change our Y. You're like, that's not going to do anything. It's just going to move straight over and straight. That's true. So we need to change how we're changing our X and Y. And we're going to do that in our operators. So I click on the green to get to operators, and I'm going to put in a pick random block here and a pick random block here. And I'm going to change these from negative 20, 20. And I'm going to change the y from negative 20 to 20. So what we're going to see is that this crab is going to move randomly up and over in positive and negative directions until whatever. Right now it's going to do that forever. Some things that I forgot or didn't remember to put in is, right, keep in mind that I want to keep pointing in that direction 90. That's, again, you might not like that, but I do. And then if we're on the edge, we want to make sure that we bounce so that we don't just walk randomly off the screen. So let's go ahead and flag this code and see how that works. And whoa, look at that. He's just like dancing around like a crazy fool. So I, again, can move away from him and he's randomly moving. It's a little easier to dodge him this time because he's only, whoa, he caught me anyway. So again, a different set of code, different basic events happening. But at the end of the day, we can see another way to make that character move around in a random sort of style. So 3 or 4 different ways to make your character move around. You've got some choices now. What you need to do is make sure that you set your second character to some kind of motion so that he's doing that motion while you can still move your sprite one, your cat sprite around. Hope this worked well for you guys. Excited to see the games you guys have created.